It's Movie Time. It's produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
I am Jordan Hanhilammi.
And this is It's Movie Time. Jordan, welcome back, buddy.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I need you.
I'm ready for a super good time.
Oh, listen. We're going to be talking about the animation that broke all the records for its opening, right?
Yes.
So we're going to have to justify this movie's hundreds of millions of dollars right here on It's Movie Time. And I said, of my brilliant guests, who best will be able to analyze this with me? And it was Jordan, and you're able to do it. And here we are with Super Mario Brothers movie.
Who's old enough to have experienced the early days of Super Mario Brothers, but also still young enough in maturity level to appreciate today's Super Mario Brothers. That would be Jordan Hanhilammi.
And this guy is old enough to have seen Cinderella,
Yes.
and been young enough to love Toy Story,
Mm-hmm.
and now old enough to withstand the color of Super Mario Brothers. Holy, geez, Jordan! Of course, I don't play games either.
Sure.
So I can't fully appreciate how they transfer from Nintendo's game, which is itself super, right? Into
Yeah. Well, and you get a little taste at the very outset of the movie of that, what would it have been then, 8-bit or 16-bit or 32-bit? I don't remember which bits are which. No, Nintendo 64 was 64-bit. But anyway, seeing that game, the digitization of the game that I was, grew up with as a young lad.
Yeah.
With when Super Mario's came to America, and Nintendo took the country by storm and everyone my age by storm, and it's very nostalgic to see that old stuff. But like you're saying, now it is. I mean, the animation is it's a whole nother galaxy away from what that was back then.
All right, well then tell me two things, George. First, what captured you in the original game? I mean, why do you remember it so well and were so affected by it?
That's a good question. It was, at that time, some of the things that I guess I remember from it is that it was a little bit more of a story than some of the previous games. I grew up with my dad had Pong, in our basement. We had a little. It was a part of the TV. It wasn't even like the TV was Pong, and so I was obviously about as basic as it gets.
Wait a minute, how about the one that eats things along?
Oh yeah, the Pac-Man, yeah, and that was a bit of an evolution, and the Donkey Kong, who was a part of this movie, that was an evolution, and the introduction of Super Mario came within that universe. But again, it was still you're just getting to another level, and with Super Mario Brothers, there was more of a story. It's right there in the title, Super Mario Brothers. All of a sudden, you have these like two characters that are intertwined, and you immediately gives you a little bit more of an affection for them, and so yeah, but it's going into all these different worlds where Pac-Man has little bits differences. It just gets a little harder each time. But with Mario, you're daylight, you're darkness, you're underwater, you're doing all this different stuff, and it was just really exciting. And so I think a lot of it for me, from what I remember, was that story and that there was a theatrical element to it as a game back then.
So did they capture it with the current Super Mario Brothers movie?
I think so. I mean, there's definitely a lot of the elements. There's plenty of stuff in there for me to get excited about, but then also a lot of things for younger generations to get excited about, because there's been so many iterations of the game since then because of how famous it was, that there's stuff that I don't like. I know they're making references to games that have happened since that I haven't played and stuff, but there's plenty in there for me to enjoy the even just the way the tubes work and stuff. That was a big part of Super Mario Brothers, was getting sucked into these tubes that would take you to other worlds.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the movie centers around that as a premise, getting sucked into these other worlds and stuff. So and then it's just a lot of it's just the characters. So Bowser was the big bad guy in Super Mario Brothers. He's that here, and Jack Black is absolutely perfect person to cast as the voice for Bowser, and
I always get a kick out of
Presidents
Seth
and-
Rogen.
Yeah,
He's the Donkey Kong, right?
yes, and he was definitely fun. It was funny. I took my niece and nephew and to get their opinions on as well. And my nephew, he doesn't know Seth Rogen, but he goes, "Who is that? I know that laugh."
Yes,
It's like, yes you do, yes you do. Yes, so they felt like really good with a lot of really fun people. I'm a big Charlie Day fan, and him as Luigi was a great. That was a great choice, and
Chris Pratt does the voice.
yeah, Chris Pratt, and there was a lot of people getting upset when they first launched the trailer for the movie at the voice work that was being done with that it wasn't
Yes.
very Italian,
Yes,
stuff
right.
like that.
Yeah.
I think this was a great example of that being all for naught, because it was, I thought, really a very stroke of genius as to the way that they handled the accent with the beginning of the movie, with the making the commercial and using the voice, but acknowledging, is it too much, but then you realize that they don't actually talk, like that, but they do,
Right.
I don't know, I just thought it was really smart the way that they played with that.
And you're right, there's a lot of good controversy about perhaps Pratt's not using enough of an Italian accent, but who cares? Once you get into the movie,
Yeah.
it just is not important. Where I thought, what I missed was the use of an Italian background for more gags and jokes that I didn't see there.
Mhm.
You have repetition of Mamma Mia,
Yeah.
but then I don't get an awful lot that's Italian. I mean,
Yeah, it was more New York was a lot of the
Sure
feel
was.
for it. That was definitely the theme
Yeah,
for it. So.
And you have them eating at the table, and my gosh, from my background, that's fertile ground.
Yeah.
For all kinds
Well, you
of
get that. I
satire.
immediately was thinking of the Clumps and Nutty Professor, and like waiting for them to do some sort of gags with that. But yes, I know what you mean. There could have been a little more with that.
And I will tell you that you were talking about story, and I appreciated your saying that, because I think that this is one of the areas where I was hoping for a little more coherence.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, it is all over the place,
Mhm.
George. And I found a real emphasis on explosions and loud noises and so on that would be a property of the game. My guess is that this is a replication of the game. Must be a lot of noises and
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. There was definitely a lot of stuff that was that were a pullback to the game. That when people of my age and younger and stuff, when you hear some of those noises, it just takes you right back to sitting on the carpet in front of your little 13-inch TV when you were a kid,
Right.
Playing this game, and like it just takes you right there when you hear the beeps and the noises of getting sucked into the pipes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they definitely played that up quite a bit.
for our listeners of a certain age, these boys are plumbers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why Jordan is right. It is fascinating to see all the tubes and to see the carry their wrenches and then to turn off the valve so that it doesn't flood.
Right.
Brooklyn is really pretty hilarious
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, they're two boys who are down out of their luck. And
Yeah, I thought they did a nice job in the early part of it, establishing a care for them. I mean, you're already going to care about Mario and Luigi if you're, somebody that grew up with the game at all, and so that's inherent. But I thought they did you also never really got to see them as actual, character or people in the games, and so I mean they fleshed
Sure.
this out more, and I thought they did a good job with that. And the other thing too that was big in the movie that was Super Mario Brothers alone was a big thing, but the next evolution, the thing that they did that was incredible, was to take that and then create Mario Kart. And Mario Kart is the transcendent game. That's the game that stretches across generations. Where that came out when I was like a little before college maybe or something.
Okay.
And that was huge in college. That was a big like have some beers and play Mario Kart, but then also my nephew and my niece, like they are obsessed with Mario Kart too.
Okay.
And stuff. So that's the game, that creation of that is what has I don't think we would have Super Mario Brothers the movie without Mario Kart kind of stretching across
all right.
the generations and making young people care about that. If it would have just been those initial games, it probably wouldn't have I'm guessing, I don't know that for sure, but that would be my guess is that Mario Kart, and so that plays a role in the movie as well as the kart stuff.
And it's not so esoteric that even people who don't know the Mario tradition couldn't identify with some of the tropes of animation and of these stories. I mean, we have the two boys who meet these very eccentric characters, including Bowser, Bad Boy, and Kong and others on their adventure into the mushroom world. So they get sucked down in trying to help Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And they get sucked down somewhere beneath the earth to the mushroom world, and there are some pretty interesting characters.
For sure.
And one of the traditional ones was the princess.
Yeah.
What'd you think of her?
I mean, I liked her, generally as a character and a part of the story and stuff. I would have liked, I think, a little bit more from whether it be Anya Taylor-Joy or someone else there just wasn't a lot of effort, it didn't feel like, in the voice work. It felt like she just kind of talked normally, and so I don't know, for a movie that's got all these characters and stuff like that, it would have been nice to hear a little bit of, I don't know.
No, I think you're spot on. I wanted more of her.
Yeah.
Now she's an evolution of a character because she's a beautiful little blonde, straight out of Disney practically in her beauty, but she's a kick butt lady.
Yeah, right. And that was kind of true to the games. I think that Princess was Super Mario Brothers 2. I don't think she was in 1. I think she gets as a character comes in 2. And I used Princess a lot when I played because there was a kick butt kind of like personality to her in the game as well. So that was nice to see as well.
All right, Jordan Hanhilammi, I think that I already hear our producer getting some calls from people who say, please, no, don't stop now. Jordan is so good about this. And so I would like to direct them to our Back Talk podcast, which they have to go to WCBE.org and go to the podcast experience.
Great.
And then they can hear us talk a little bit more. Your final words, your advice to our audience.
It's really fun, and especially if you have kids, nieces, nephews, anybody that you can kind of get across some generations. I think it's a really fun movie to see together.
Wow, I think they're going to, the Illumination experience.
That team is crushing it.